Welcome to the new Chemist. We're glad you're listening. Feel free to download this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Here on the new Chemist, we discuss chemistry, which simply put is the science of change, as well as careers, community, research, and COVID-19. We're happy you're tuning in. My guest today is Rosa. Thanks for joining me today. It is good to hear from you. Just briefly, I'll inform my audience about you. Rosa is a robotics PhD student at Georgia Tech with a mechanical engineering bachelor's degree from UPRM and a master's degree from Georgia Tech. He works in the healthcare realm, developing machine learning algorithms that help process physiology in the loop to better control exoskeletons that improve walking efficiency and safety. Please welcome Rosa. Thank you, Luis, for joining me today. It is good to see you.
Likewise.
Yes. So, as we begin, I do have a few questions for you. Do you have any advice for those wanting to pursue the field you're currently studying in?
Well, I'm studying robotics, and I think it's a pretty new field. So it's definitely maybe not as much information out there. I'd say robotics is a big field. So step one should be maybe defining within robotics what kind of work you're interested in. Both the nature of the work, as in, are you looking for an academia job? Are you looking for an industry job? Some startup or something else? And also, like, are you more of like the coding kind of robotics researcher or worker? Are you more on like the design side of things or something else, right? I think it's a big space, and I think it's important to have a concrete goal so that you can better tailor how you do things, what you learn about. So I definitely do that. And yeah, I guess depending on which path you choose, and would be my recommendation, but definitely work hard and look for what you really need to do to get to the places that you want.
Okay.
Everything should be focused on what your ultimate goal is what I would say. And I think this goes not just for robotics, but whatever domain or area you're working at. Definitely look up to what you want to do and what you need to do to get there, which sometimes is not as easy as it sounds. The information might be nowhere to be found, but ask people around, and I think that can lead you towards, or at least closer to where you want to be.
Yeah, that's very true. Networking does play a large role, and communication is important, as well as having concrete ideas for your aspirations that complements you being closer to achieving your goal. So, Luis, I think by any standard or yardstick, people can say you have been successful as a student.
I don't know. Maybe.
Well, I think so. So, how have you been so successful as a student in the field?
So, I guess it depends how you define success.
Yeah.
There's the classic academic success of just getting straight A's and doing great in classes. I think in the PhD, classes tend to be less important, and it's more about the research that you do. I will admit that when I first started my PhD, I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know about the research that I was doing, or like how to do research. I think I was way behind, maybe because of my lack of experience. Not, and I think this is very common. Is maybe a lot of us didn't have maybe the upbringing or the facility and resources to be experts in research early on, or know how to do it. So I think what has made me better, let's say, I think it's recognizing those shortcomings. It's knowing where you might not be as strong, or you might need to do some extra work to catch up. And then, putting in that extra work, really caring about your performance and where it matters, which again, and PhD is like a lot of moving parts. There's classes and research and making your advisor happy. Um, but I think what has brought me to where I am now, which is definitely a better position than I started with. Like, professors are happy with my work, and that for me, that's like all that. It sounds sad, but that's like all that matters when you're doing your PhD, because like they're the ones that say whether like you're making progress. I mean, there's tons of things, and you want to do great research and good science that's valuable for people and for your future. But yeah, I think it's knowing the areas that you can work on to improve, and putting in the, like, asking around, ask your fellow lab mates, ask your peers and colleagues about what it is that they're doing, and just always try to be aware and conscious about your performance and how you're doing. Doesn't mean you have to always overdo it. That's another thing that I kind of have to say, like, research will is never done. Research is never done. There's always more that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
You're exploring new areas. So it's important to keep, again, everything in perspective so that you can better manage your time and have, you know, I'm spreading a little bit too much on this answer, but let's just say, to be successful, you really need to be on top of what you're doing and why you're doing it, and how you can be better at all of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Self-awareness is very important. You have to know yourself to grow yourself and to improve yourself and to become, to actualize as a person. So how have you maintained vision and teamwork in your environment? Because all those things are very important. How have you, in research, and I've seen this personally, teamwork is so important in research, to be able to work properly with your lab mates or classmates. It's important, especially in a graduate program. So how have you, as a graduate student, maintained that in your environment?
Yeah. So I think I could do better with teamwork.
Okay.
I will admit. I think I'm unconscious about it, right? I think it kind of sadly depends a lot on your research project and your research advisor. There's some labs. So, for example, right now I'm co-advised, and I can give you both examples so you can. Uh, and one of them, he has a few grad students, and each grad student works on their own little projects. So it's harder to do teamwork on the same stuff because everyone has their own goals. Whereas the other advisor has like 20 grad students, and they have subgroups, and every subgroups meets weekly and works on very similar stuff, and that helps with teamwork. So that's part one, is like, what does your environment allow? Like, are you able to work in teams?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, and why I say all of that, of like, yeah, we're working on the same or not, is because I believe teamwork is possible regardless of you not being necessarily working on the same thing, right?
Okay.
I think if you're intentional about collaboration, you can involve people in other ways, be to brainstorm or exchange ideas or ask for help. Um, I was one who, like, I don't like asking for help. I like doing things by myself, and all, and just because I don't want to be occupying or bothering people. But at the same time, I've learned through my PhD that I need to ask for help, and I need to take into account other people's point of view, and like in the end, I think it helps you grow and learn from others, and it helps the project be like have better results because you're accounting for more brains. And I think people are generally willing and happy to help you if they have the time. So I think when it comes to teamwork, I would say be intentional and proactive in looking out for people. Don't wait for them to ask, or don't wait for you to need it necessarily.
Mm.
Sometimes, even if you don't need the help, it's good to still ask for that extra opinion of somebody else. It's good to, involve other people and invest in them, invest in your relationship with them. And I guess I'm looking at it from the research perspective, but
Yeah.
out there, and you can be above them, like you can be their boss, or it could be the other way around, like they're your boss, and you still have to be conscious of this whole situation. And in all cases, try to promote more of that conversation and that inclusiveness of ideas, um, and again, invest in that relationship, and it will pay in dividends. Like it will definitely and certainly help you do more. So
Okay. Yeah, that's good. So why did you choose mechanical engineering as a field to major in?
so for mechanical engineering, the long story short, I'd say it's because I like Legos.
Okay.
uh, I feel like this is like every engineer's answer, but um, yeah, I when I was trying to choose, in my family there weren't really any engineers, and I I did not I wanted to be a professional, but I didn't want to do, let's say, like medicine or law or other things. Not that there's anything wrong with them. This just wasn't
Hmm.
for me.
Hmm.
Um, and because I was good with math and building things, and that maybe a little creative mind, you could say. Um, my parents thought engineering would be a good way to go, and then we kind of asked an engineer or two what they thought, and oh, they were mechanical engineers after all, so they might have been biased about how mechanical engineering is good. I think they were accurate in saying that it's broader than most
Hmm.
engineering disciplines. And just because of that, um, I think it really resonated with the things that I liked, at least in paper.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, I think that's the long story short.
Okay, cool, man, cool. So why did you choose robotics as a field to do your doctoral studies in? Why did you choose robotics as a concentration?
Yeah, so funny story.
Okay.
Um, it was I it was pretty recently. It was like at the end of my undergrad.
Okay.
I was doing some cleanup, and I found, like, in my house, in my closet, all these old things, and I found like a binder that I did in fifth grade, and it had an autobiography.
Okay.
And part of it said, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? And it said robotics and help people.
Wow.
I wanted to build robots. And at this point, like, I'm already like applying to a robotics PhD. So it's funny for me to think that I've always kind of wanted this, and I just forgot that I wanted it.
Wow.
Um, so that's like, yeah, I've always wanted it, but at the same time, what made me what reminded me of this, I don't know, passion that I had. I did this internship at Boeing in which uh, I was very proactive in asking people higher up. I asked them for interviews, and I was moving all around, exploring what they had. Um, and I went to this research and development lab that they have in University of Washington.
Mm-hmm.
and there it's a robotics lab,
Okay.
and that's where I met for the first time somebody who had done a robotics PhD,
Wow.
which I did not know was a thing. I was like, wait, what? I could do a PhD in robotics? So there I am, ignorant to the world of possibilities that's out there.
Yeah.
Um, and after that, I changed. I started doing robotics. I started doing research, and because I had done a little bit of robotics, like special projects and stuff. But um, yeah, so I think it was a combination of the opportunities that presented themselves in undergrad to do a little robotics work, and then learning about how robotics is a major that really automatically clicked, and yeah, I was driven to it
Okay.
since.
Good, dude. That's good. That's good. It's interesting. You said you always had the passion all along. It just took you a while to remind yourself and
Yeah,
remember
I
about it.
mean, yes,
Yeah, dude.
yeah.
That's interesting because I think sometimes amidst the circumstances and obstacles that people may face, sometimes your hope, your dreams are deferred, and you put them to the side, and
Yeah.
then you don't always pursue them. But it's good that you're pursuing something you've always been passionate about. So, given all your responsibilities and accomplishments, Luis, how do you maintain a balanced life? Or how are you trying to maintain a
Yeah,
balanced
yeah.
life?
In short, you have to prioritize it. It
Yeah,
has to
priority.
be one of your priorities.
Yeah.
You have to be intentional. And the way I see it is I am more efficient. I am better at my work if I am well slept. If I am eating healthy, I feel better. If I exercise, I feel better. If I take time to socialize and meet people, I feel better. And all that for me translates into better work. And in the end, like I'm doing a PhD, but I'm also in my 20s, so I don't want to like completely just be in lab 24/7. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
I'll be happy later on if I just went by all these years without meeting anyone, right? So I think being intentional, being proactive, and setting yourself like a minimum, kind of like at least one night at a week. I'll go eat with somebody or like something. Different people have different needs and different amounts of social requirements, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
But definitely spend time on you. Um, and yeah, I could say a lot more, but I think it's different for everyone. But as long as you do not get too carried away with work, I have a saying that's we work to live, we don't live to work. So
Mm. Yeah, it's true.
it's a job to get money and food on the table, and uh, in the end, you just want to do other things as well. So
Yeah.
that's me. That's what I think.
Yeah, and one of the things I keep in mind is that work will always be there, whether you're there or not, whether the people are there or not, whether you
Yeah,
make time for them or not. Work will always be there. So you have to
very
make
true.
sure you put it in perspective and context of your
Very true.
time. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, were you going to say something, Luis?
I was gonna say that it ties up to what I said earlier that
Yeah.
research is never done. It's like work is there's always gonna be more.
Yeah.
So just take your time too.
So, how have you found the right environment for you to thrive scientifically and intellectually? Why did you choose the specific university to do your PhD at? Or how have you found a good environment for you to thrive? Um, why did you choose this environment?
Yeah, so I think environments for you thriving can go in two ways. One is the university or the company or wherever you're working. In my case, I came to Georgia Tech for summer research program before while I was in undergrad, and that's where I kind of learned about a lot of things and research in Georgia Tech. But it wasn't until I did some search of my own of what the top robotics universities were. That's when I saw Georgia Tech was like number 3 on some ranking, on the like best robotics. I don't know how official that ranking list is, but I knew Georgia Tech was a great option, and I also had liked what I saw in terms of environment and culture.
Mm-hmm.
I like the collaborative and inclusion of minorities and all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So I applied to the top robotics schools. I didn't get into many, uh, but I got into Georgia Tech, which was like my number one choice, just because of it was very good at robotics and very good at that support that comes with it. So yeah, when it comes to finding the great environment that's conducive, is again, what do you want to do, and what's the best that you can, what's the best place that you can get to and be working at that will
Yeah.
help you get there.
Yeah, that's true.
Um, and the other quick thing about environment for success is it's also important to be aware of your surroundings. Like, and it sounds menial, but like where you live and who's surrounding you, who are the people that have influence in you, whether you're conscious about it or not. I think that's also very important for, and has very big impact in like your scientific and what your performance is.
Yeah.
So yeah, first semester for me, I had a long commute, and even that was like new to me, and it affected like my day to day. So it's little things that you also have to keep in mind and try to optimize so that your
Yeah.
whole performance is good.
Yep. I agree. So, Luis, how do you maintain a view of the bigger picture in your life and in your career in general? When you face obstacles and challenges, how do you keep things in perspective?
Yeah, so I think I think a lot about life and like kind of these very big picture ideas of why we do things. I like to dream, and it sounds, I don't know how it sounds, but I like to dream and think about the future and what I could do. Uh, and I like to have big aspirations. I've been a positive person all my life, and I think it helps me and it drives me to have those big aspirations. And even if I don't really become like Iron Man or whatever crazy idea I could have,
Yeah.
um, I could still go a long way. Uh, I could still go a long way. And the thing is, I think there's a sweet spot between how much work you want to put in on a daily basis and where you wanna get to. Um, Maybe you're not willing to work 100 hours a week like some CEOs I've heard about that are famous. I don't want that, right? So I might be happy with not being the next Elon Musk. Let's just say, like I've heard he works a long hours. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on this, but um, so yeah, I think it's just a constant reminder of what do you want to do, and have that vision of what is driving and why. Have a reason for doing things.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely have a reason. Don't do things just because it's the right thing, or like it's what people told you is what you should be doing. Like really think about why you do things, and if you have some good reasons, then those good reasons will maintain and will still be there. It might keep changing on a daily basis, and
Mm-hmm.
it might evolve, and but those changes will be a lot smaller if you had a good foundation, right? Because we change as people and what we want
Mm-hmm.
might change. But if you had a good foundation, it's not like 1 weekend and you're regretting coming into grad school. That's not how it should be. Um, so I feel like because I put in enough time to figuring out what it is I wanted,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like I have more than enough reasons to uh, stay and work through the problems, which I think is the hardest part, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
they'll come the tough times and you want to quit and like do something else, and that's when you have to look back to the big picture, look back to
Yeah.
the impact that you want to have and that you've had, right? Also give you some credit on what you've done so far. So I think it's just about perspective and being intentional about it.
Yeah.
Um, just to finish, I know I've talked a lot, but
It's fine,
to,
Luis.
uh, so there was a study, it's a famous study, maybe you know it, of a class from Harvard or some very big university, and they studied them through many years. And let's say 30 years after graduation, the top like 2% or the top earners and the most successful ones in that whole class were people who every day read, like wrote down and read to themselves what their goals were for the day, for the year, for 10 years. So people who every single day they woke up and they reminded themselves why they are doing things
Mm-hmm.
every day. And I think getting into those sort of habits in which you're intentional about reminding yourself and why you're doing things, what it is you want,
Mm-hmm.
that will make your daily problems like trivial in comparison to that
Wow.
big goal that you're going for. So
Dude, that's powerful. That's powerful. That is really good. Yeah. That is like remind yourself of why you're doing things on a daily basis. Yeah, that's very good because I think it's very important for us not to just do things like out of just keep on going without rationalizing our reasons for doing things. Um, and
exactly.
and also you made the comment, things will evolve. Yes, life is almost like, and I say this from my small experience in life, being a young 20 something year old, 23-year-old. My
We're all young.
Yeah, we're all young. So my thing is, for some reason it stands out to me that life is almost like a research experiment in some ways. You are adjusting things, adjusting parameters because you have an idealized goal that you're trying to achieve. So you're
Yeah.
adjusting things as time progresses. So
Yep.
yeah.
Ask any older person. They could be 60 and they're still figuring out life.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
true. That's true. That's true.
So don't stress about it, but just be intentional. And I think having those good small habits will really go a long way. So just make good habits. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Sounds
true.
sounds easy. Sounds easy, but
Yeah, yeah. But just before we conclude, I would like to discuss how have you been adaptive and creative in the field of science as a researcher. I think this may be quite easy for you because you're working in a very novel field, relatively novel.
yeah. I mean, so being creative, I guess there's two ways. I'm gonna talk about two ways of it. I'm just gonna say there's the creative solutions that you might come up with for your immediate work or research problems. So I'm trying to solve X, and that's very individual. Like the way you think and your brain works, you'll come up with different solutions. Um, and I think towards that you have to be in a good frame of mind. That's and you have to educate yourself and get enough knowledge in so that you have enough data points, right, to
Mm-hmm.
make the best estimate or the best guess, or right. So I think when it comes to that scientific aspect of creativity um, and innovation, it's just making it easier for yourself to come up with these awesome ideas, right? So set up the whole surroundings, as we were talking earlier about your environment and all of that, like make it conducive for you to come up with them. And the second thing is you also kind of have to be creative in life and into how to deal with other problems that might come your way.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where I've really had to, I don't know, put it some effort, just because life really throws curveballs at you,
Yeah.
and different people have different issues, and what's a problem for me might not be for you, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
But I think sometimes it requires creativity to get out of these situations, and I think that comes paired with, again, a greater perspective, like a zoomed out look at what's happening. Um, yeah, I've had to kind of I've been humbled coming here, because you think you know a lot about
Yeah.
things in life, and then you realize you really don't.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, you think you don't know anything, and some people are great and they just have like this imposter syndrome or something. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I think that perspective and that just willingness to keep going and look for another option. Always look for other options, not settling right away. You do
Mm-hmm.
have to settle at some point and do something, right? But always looking for a better way to do things and improve yourself. I'm like always optimizing. I like that word, right? Like
Yeah.
always looking for a better way to do things. And I think that leads in the end to more creative, more novel, constructive work, and more novel ways of navigating through life. So
Wow. That's good. Thank you, Luis, for joining me today. It was good to have you on.
thanks for having me. And
Thanks for listening. We're glad you were able to tune into this podcast. Once again, this is The New Chemist, where we discuss chemistry, which simply put is the science of change, as well as the other sciences, careers, community, research, and COVID 19. Thanks again for listening. Note, the views on this podcast represent those of my guests and I.